5 years ago, my predecessor, Congressman Reed Ribble, hosted a summit about an issue of growing concern to our community: dead zones in the waters of Green Bay. And to make a long story short, the meeting received an overwhelmingly positive response, not just from conservationists, but from farmers and industry in our community as well, all of whom wanted to find a solution to this growing problem. It was then, back in 2015, that the Save the Bay initiative was born, and it's one I've proudly continued and built upon since first getting elected to Congress in 2016. Every year since then, groups made up of farmers, conservationists, representatives from state and federal agencies, and other interested stakeholders have convened multiple times a year to collaborate on innovative strategies that both protect the environment and help farmers in their efforts to integrate conservation practices on their farms. As we celebrate 5 years, let me be the first to say I couldn't be more proud of what this group has achieved. And while we haven't been able to gather and collaborate in the traditional sense this year, we're going to hear from some of our group about what we've done and where we're going.
Hi, my name is Barry Bubals. I work for the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and I act as the role of the GLRI coordinator here in Northeast Wisconsin, working with the 6 demonstration farm networks. And so back in 2013, we started the demonstration farm network in Brown County with 4 farms. And since that time, we've grown to 8 farms there. And in fact, since then, we've grown out to 6 demonstration farms here in Northeast Wisconsin. So the demonstration farms are an opportunity and avenue for farmers to show other farmers, their peers, innovative conservation practices that are occurring, lessons they've learned, new things that they can take back to their own farm. And so there's a lot of practices that the demonstration farms have focused on, but they, for the most part, all focus around soil health and the principles of soil health. And so some of those innovative practices, include interseeding. We're standing here in a field today that's been interplanted with soybeans into the corn. So we got soybeans that were planted the day after the corn was planted, just trying to build soil health in here, but also improving the silage product too. So and the whole basis of the demonstration farms and the work that NRCS does with our partners is to reduce phosphorus and sediment loads into the Great Lakes, whether that's by the Fox River or here standing in the Door and Kewaunee watersheds.
So Save the Bay has been great for organization in that it brings together agency folk, but more importantly the producers and the farmers to share and collaborate stories. We've done successful tours with elected officials and highlighted the equipment that other grants have brought to this area, like GLRI, Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, and the Nature Conservancy. Behind me is a interseeder that was put together with both GLRI funds to get the blue units to attach to an old corn cultivator, and then the air seeder was added by the Nature Conservancy donation. And this unit now can interseed cover crops in June or July, which wasn't possible 5 years ago. Other pieces of equipment like low disturbance manure injectors that you plant the cover crop first, and then you apply your manure, and the cover crop can grow from that manure. It can trap that manure in the soil better than conventional practices, and then make those nutrients available in the spring. So these pictures show different closing wheels. Through our grants, we purchased something as simple as these closing wheels, and each one, as you can see, is a different setup. Each one works differently in different soils with different planter types, and so a small change as a closing wheel can make a huge difference in your success of adopting these soil health practices.
This farmer has not tilled this field for 3 years and have used cover crops each of those years. With those 2 practices alone, farmers in the area have been seeing the benefits of soil structure that no-till provides, both with trafficability as well as getting into the field sooner after a rain without having to rut up the fields and destroy them, causing a need for tillage again. In the 2 pictures we can see here, we see the differences in soil management practices. On the picture in the left was plowed, and on the picture in the right was using soil health principles, both cover crops and no-till. And we can see how using those two practices alone can help with trafficability in a field when conditions are wet.
Also see the benefits of the no-till in fall harvest. The equipment carried, it was night and day versus tilled ground to no-till ground on how the equipment carried when it was so wet last fall.
Along with the no-till and how much better the equipment carried, I do believe that a lot of people recognize that and weed it ourselves. And just with our crew, they kind of fell in love with the whole thing because they're like how much easier it was to do harvest.
Outagamie County Land Conservation Department, along with their conservation partners, have established a soil health education and demonstration facility. The 25-acre facility will showcase innovative equipment and cropping practices, as well as being the hub for soil health equipment and hosting grower meetings. The hands-on facility will allow growers to see how soil health practices can work in this area and what strategies can work on their farm. This year we started by no-tilling corn into oat stubble. During the summer, we will be planting cover crops between corn rows at different timings and with different plant species. This practice, called interseeding, allows farmers to establish cover crops during the summer months to help reduce the amount of work to be done in fall. If farmers are considering implementing soil health practices on their farm, they should reach out to agronomists at their local land conservation department for tips and guidance.
This is an example of a tow wood structure. It's a somewhat uncommon practice that we've been replacing traditional rock riprap with. It's a great way to add in-stream habitat while also getting the benefits that the rock riprap gives of erosion protection. Typically the banks in these areas would be straight up and down vertical, and every single storm would cause more and more erosion. We can see behind me there's actually there's a public walking trail back there, so the area was concerned about losing the trail itself, so we started putting in a whole bunch of these practices in the area. While practices like these are doing a lot to help with the erosion happening in the area, we also need to be working on what's going on up in the watershed. One thing we're looking for right now is areas to store water. Great opportunities to create ponding areas to really slow down the water so that when the water does get to this point in the watershed, it's not just causing, it doesn't have the velocities to cause the erosion that typically would be happening here. So right now these are kind of more band-aid fixes, and we're really looking for the real opportunity to have that final fix. And I think in our eyes, storage of water up in the watershed is a great way to do that.
Here in Northeast Wisconsin, we know that what we put in the ground is ultimately what we eat and drink, and that plays a critical role in our health. That's why it should be no surprise that in a community of farmers, the overwhelming majority are committed to initiatives that improve soil health and protect our water resources. And that's not to say that our mission is complete. We still have a long way to go, but I genuinely believe that our community here in Northeast Wisconsin has an opportunity to lead not just the country, but the world in the next generation of conservation practices. So to all those involved in our Save the Bay initiative, cheers to 5 years and many more.